In this segment of the anatomy, we are going to be discussing about the composition of bone. Introduction. Bone is a rigid, connective tissue organ that constitutes part of the vertebrate skeleton. Bones protect the various organs of the body. They produce red and white blood cells. They're responsible for storing minerals and also provide a structure and support for the body, thus enabling mobility. They are lightweight yet strong and hard and serve multiple functions. Composition of the bone. The bone tissue or the osseous tissue is a hard tissue which is a dense type of connective tissue. It has a honeycomb-like matrix internally which helps to give bone rigidity. The bone tissue is made up of different types of bone cells. The osteoblasts and osteocytes are involved in the formation and mineralization of the bone, while the osteoclasts are involved in the resorption of the bone tissue. Modified osteoblasts, which are flattened, become the lining cells that form a protective layer on the surface of the bone. The mineralized matrix of bone tissue has an organic component of mainly collagen, called the ostein, and an inorganic component of the bone mineral made up of various salts. Bone tissue is a mineralized tissue of two types, the cortical bone and the cancellous bone. Other types of tissue found in bones include bone marrow, endosteum, periosteum, the nerves, blood vessels, and cartilage. Bone cells. Bone is a metabolically active tissue composed of several types of cells. These cells include the osteoblasts, which are involved in the creation and mineralization of the bone tissue, the osteocytes, and the osteoclasts, which are involved in the resorption of bone tissue. The osteoblasts and osteocytes are derived from the osteoprogenitor cells, but the osteoclasts are derived from the same cells that differentiate to form macrophages and monocytes. Within the marrow of the bone, there are also hematopoietic stem cells. These cells give rise to other cells including white blood cells, red blood cells, and platelets. Now let's try to understand each of these cells functioning. To begin with, the osteoblasts. Osteoblasts are mononucleate bone-forming cells. They are located on the surface of the osteoid seams. The osteoid seam is a narrow region of newly formed organic matrix which is not yet mineralized, located on the surface of a bone, and make a protein mixture known as the osteoid, which mineralizes to become bone. The osteoid is primarily composed of type 1 collagen. Just remember the mnemonic, type 1 ONE, and the bone is made up of BONE, so type 1 is in bone. The osteoblast creates and repairs new bone by actually building around itself. First, the osteoblast puts up collagen fibers. These collagen fibers are used as a framework for the osteoblast's work. The osteoblast then deposits calcium phosphate, which is hardened by hydroxide and bicarbonate ions. The brand new bone created by the osteoblast is called the osteoid. Once the osteoblast is finished working, it is actually trapped inside the bone once it hardens. Imagine yourself cementing around yourself, and now the cement has hardened. You're kind of trapped inside, right? Similarly, the osteoblast also gets trapped around the bone it lays. When the osteoblast becomes trapped, it becomes an osteocyte. Other osteoblasts remain on top of the new bone and are used to protect the underlying bone. These become as the lining cells. Osteocytes. Osteocytes are mostly inactive osteoblasts. The osteocytes originate from osteoblasts that have migrated into and become trapped and are surrounded by a bony matrix that they themselves produced. The spaces they occupy are known as lacunae. The osteocytes have many processes that reach out to meet osteoblasts and other osteocytes, probably for the purposes of communication. The osteocytes remain in contact with other cells in the bone through gap junctions via coupled cell processes which pass through small channels in the bone matrix, which are called as canaliculi. Osteoclasts. Osteoclasts are very large multinucleated cells that are responsible for the breakdown of the bones by the process of bone resorption. New bone is then formed by the osteoblasts. The bone is constantly remodeled by the resorption of osteoclasts and created by osteoblasts. These osteoclasts are large cells with multiple nuclei located on the bony surfaces in what are called the Hoschip's lacunae. These lacunae are the result of surrounding bone tissue that has been resorbed. Because the osteoclasts are derived from a monocyte stem cell lineage, they are equipped with phagocytic-like mechanisms similar to circulating macrophages. The osteoclasts mature and migrate to discrete bone surfaces. Upon arrival, the active enzymes such as the tartrate-resistant acid phosphatase or the TRAP are secreted against the mineral substrate. Extracellular matrix. Bones consist of living cells embedded in a mineralized organic matrix. This matrix consists of organic and inorganic components. The type 1 collagen, which is the organic component, refers to materials produced as a result of the human body, and the inorganic component, primarily the hydroxyapatite and other salts of calcium and phosphate, are also important components of a bone. Type 1 collagen composes 90 to 95% of the organic matrix, with the remainder of the matrix being a homogeneous liquid called the ground substance, consisting of proteoglycans, such as the hyaluronic acid, and chondroitin sulfate. It also consists of non-collagenous proteins such as the osteocalcin, the osteopontin, and the bone sialoprotein. Collagen consists of strands of repeating units which give bone tensile strength and are arranged in an overlapping fashion that prevents shear stress. The collagen fibers give bone its tensile strength, and the interspersed crystals of hydroxyapatite gives bone its compressive strength. The inorganic composition of bone is primarily formed from salts of calcium and phosphate, with the major salt being hydroxyapatite.